Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. Today I want to talk about the phenomenon of so many exotics rigorously rejecting Western values and progressive ideology. So it is not only the Russians that have to deal without McDonald's and Starbucks right now and who don't want Western or, let's just be honest here, US cultural colonialism or interference in their country. It is also a lot of other groups and people that are rejecting this stuff. Recently now we could read, big surprise here, that the new and old rulers in Afghanistan, they are now shutting down girls' schools once again, and they order the women to be completely covered. Not just their faces like here in the West like it was for a certain time. No, they have to wear this, let's just say, ethnic garment once again in public. And of course, how could anybody be surprised about that? I mean, those are still the same kind of people that are now in power, are they not? So there are many people in the West, and a lot of them are also, well, at least technically on the right, and they are saying, well, these people, they have a hatred for everything that is Western, they hate our free and liberal way of life, and that is why they want to destroy this. But I want, of course, to offer a different perspective today. I don't think they are necessarily hateful, and maybe they have really good reasons. Of course, it could be that they're just on autopilot and they just want to do what their ancestors did or what is their custom, and they don't want any outside influence because they are traditionalists. Maybe they are like that, but maybe they have actually thought about that. So the way that I see things, at least, is that we in the West and also many countries in the Far East, Japan and South Korea, for example, that are undoubtedly under Western influence, we have been culturally sterilized. So I am not talking about reduced sperm counts and mobility or declining levels of testosterone in young Western men. That is also a really important topic on the biological level, of course, but I'm talking ideologically or culturally right now. Our fertility rate in the West has been dropping below replacement level, not necessarily because of low sperm count in our Western men, but it has something to do with how many children a woman wants and what goals women have in life and what opportunities and what kind of education they get. And this is not my opinion, this is what the UN and the European Commission and all these globalist organizations and think tanks, what they actually say. And you can look these things up in their statements. And this is not new information, by the way. This has been around forever, in some cases many decades old, these statements and this information. What they are saying is that if you want to do something against overpopulation and really rising population numbers beyond of what the earth or our economy can sustain, you have to focus on women's or, let's say, girls' education. There are other factors like what is the probability that a child will survive into adulthood. The higher that probability, the more parents will focus on an individual child and the fewer children they will aim for generally. But the deciding factor, and this is where all these institutions agree and all the research that they're basing this opinion on, it agrees on the fact that girls' education and job opportunities and economic prospects for young women is the number one factor that reduces fertility rate. So this is how these think tanks are promoting that, and this is why they say, even for example, that the fertility rate in South Korea is a benchmark of what can be achieved by, promoting girls' education. They say, and I repeat here, that this is an achievement. Have you looked at the fertility rate of South Korea? I would advise you to do so if you haven't done so. It is a dying society. It must be a depressing place to be. There are a lot of only children, not that that is a bad thing in and of itself, but if a lot of people are only children, you cannot even marry into a large family. So many people don't have aunts and uncles, they don't have cousins, they don't have siblings, and that overall is, in my opinion at least, a very sad thing. And my opinion really doesn't matter, because just mathematically speaking, if this goes on for much longer and if this doesn't somehow or some way or another turn around, then South Korean society will just simply implode because there won't be people around anymore. So in that sense, it is a self-correcting problem, and South Korea is only an extreme case. Poland, Germany, I mean, across the Western world, really, it is an issue. And maybe, just maybe, these exotic people that might have lower average IQs or something are not stupid after all. Maybe we are the ones who are actually stupid, even though we have higher IQs. That means we can do math faster and we can recognize pattern as long as they don't really contradict our brainwashing and our mental and ideological programming. And maybe our language ability is a little higher and, we can solve logic puzzles. Once again, as long as they don't contradict with anything that our politcommissars have told us in kindergarten. So I don't know, maybe these exotic people, maybe they know that embracing Western progressive values is a form of sterilization. It is a culture of death, and it is bringing with it, and it is actually intended to lower the fertility rate. And in the end, as many people said before me, it doesn't even matter in the end if your people are removed by some kind of violent event or by, just people don't procreate anymore. In 200 years, one would not be able to distinguish between these two cases anymore, maybe. So does that mean that these exotics reject everything that the West brings? Of course not. If we bring free money and free food, of course they take all that, and of course they also know on some level what these Western, and mostly, let's be honest, mostly it's Western women, what they want to hear. So they tell them exactly what they think they want to hear. But when it comes to actually adopting this progressive Western culture, and when they start opening schools that focus on girls' education, and when the teacher that is either from the West or that studied in the West tells their daughters that they should not find a husband but a job instead, and they should maybe think about taking a loan to go to university or something like that, a student loan that is, maybe they get a little nervous and they think, hey, wait. So that means I'm not going to get any grandchildren? I don't like the idea of not having any grandchildren. Get out of my country. Or, well, at least shut that school down, maybe, if you could. Or change the curriculum or something like that. Yeah, so I think it is very, very plausible and very likely, actually, that a lot of these exotic people, they have an explicit understanding and they consciously know what is going on. Maybe, as I said, maybe they're on autopilot and they're just traditionalists and they don't want any change. That was possible. Another thing that is possible is that they have some subconscious understanding. Maybe their gut feeling tells them that something is wrong here. But I think some of them at least, that are maybe a little more intelligent or perceptive or something, that they know exactly what the West is trying to do, because it's not hard to find out, because once again, all these organizations, the European Commission, the UN, etc., they are writing these things down in their statements. They are saying that explicitly. So yeah, that is something I want you to keep in mind. And as I said, this is not news or something, but I think knowing something and being fully aware of it are two different things. So I think it is important to be aware of the fact that we in the West have been culturally sterilized a long time ago. And I think it is very likely that a lot of these other cultures, they're very much aware of what is going on, and they know that we, so to speak, we, the West, we want to sterilize them too. And they think of that, and why wouldn't they? They think of that as an attack on their people in a very literal and very immediate sense. And that might explain a lot of their attitudes towards us in general. So I think this is almost, or it can be seen maybe as some kind of metaphysical struggle on the planet. There are traditional cultures that celebrate growth and happy, healthy families and these things. And then there is this degenerate Western culture that celebrates death and the opposite. Western culture not only celebrates the terminating of young life, It also celebrates young life that hasn't even been conceived, or people just making the choice of not procreating anymore. That is being celebrated. And on a final note, I want you to think about who will be left. Because people who don't reproduce are, of course, handing over their territory to people that do reproduce. And I do think that the forces that promote this so-called Western culture, they have no intention of not reproducing. They want this culture to be embraced by the people in the West, but not by their own culture. And I think that is the key point here. In that sense, they want to free up room on the planet, so to speak, so that their people can populate it then. All right, let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Enjoy the rest of your day. Servus, Kameraden.